So why write poetry in their eras of TikToks and YouTubes? Why write poetry? Well, my brain no work good. So I ready will do, and I'm writing a poem that respond to Trump victory. A special shout out also, Amber Rollo, to contributing to writing. So like it or not, here you go, poetry. Here, there is no why. A dialogue.
And I am taking the other part of it. Here we go.
Yeah.
How could you let this happen? I said, dropping my monocle. Kamala Harris is a proven leader, radical cheek, a pleasing hum, a trusted caretaker, checked all of the boxes. Her resume is impeccable. Why risk all of that for a thrice impeached Cheeto?
Because they are eating the dogs. They're eating the cats that are in there.
But the news said it was baseless. There was no ring footage. They made it up. Harris laughed. It's absurd. Why trust the bottomless Pinocchio?
Because they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats that are in there.
But global warming is a thing. Trump brushed it off. Helena killed 230 people. Isn't that a bigger deal than fantasy?
Because they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats that are in there.
But what does that mean? And why risk our precious democracy? Turn the executive treasury into a sharper image.
Because they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats that are in there.
In where? That's not even what he said. Watch the footage.
Because sometimes I look into the mirror and I scream. Because inside that so-called pleasant hum, I recognize mocking laughter. Because the twilight of the gods needs a decent Ragnarok. Because the Viking funeral throws off embers of eternal golden arches. Because B.F. Skinner forgot the pellets. Because even a Clockwork Orange is right twice a day. Because I don't trust your embrace. Because I prefer singing the YMCA so I can see where your hands are. Because I'd gladly trade sensitivity training for a donkey show. Because the house may wear white, but it still has a back door. Because what happens in D.C. stay D.C. Because everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Because the flag still stands for freedom. Red in tooth and claw, royal white, and blue balls. Because the red pill is the new blue chew. Because I prefer an honest criminal to a lying cop. Because I can see the future and it doesn't work. Because I can see the future and it is murder. Because I can't stop thinking about that Vladimir Nabokov, author of the Lolita Express. Nothing is more exhilarating than Philistine vulgarity. Because Nabokov is a pedophile. Because poetry is for homos. Because standing in line is for homos. Because the SNL isn't funny. Because get her done. Because irritable mental gestures which seek to resemble middle fingers. Because hell is empty and all the devils are here. Because when the sunlight dapples in the lake, it is actually beautiful. Because sea peoples is just another word for beautiful boaters. Because ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Because school is out. Because everything solid melts into the air. Because logic and proportion has fallen sloppy dead. Because our values are under attack. Because they said, come and see, but there is nothing on, so a rerun will do. Because the sound of a smashed monocle is the perfect rhythm to dance to. Because I love waterboarding with liberal tears. Because fuck your feelings. Because sit down, little man. Because the customer is always right. Because I guess Diet Mountain Dew is actually good. Because reality is boring. Because chanting opens up in new worlds of possibilities. But most of all, because they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats that are in there. So what are you waiting for? Get in there.
Snaps, everybody. Snaps for Christman. They said come and see, but there was nothing on. Thank you so much to Matt and Amber Rollo for putting that together. And like I said, we hope to be working with Matt on a number of these, missives from Matt, sort of like an Andy Rooney style segment, in a way that we can, Matt can share his voice with our audience. And I'm excited about that, and I hope you guys will be as well. It'll be very nice to hear his voice back on the show. So
he's like Allen Ginsberg if he didn't do all that stuff.